Welcome to Sunday Stories. I'm Michael Sanford. Over the next hour, we'll be sharing stories that celebrate the rich history, amazing people, and fascinating places throughout our region and beyond. For vulnerable populations, a visit from a cop can often bring out feelings of distrust and fear. In Modesto, an innovative program is trying to build positive relationships between at-risk youth and law enforcement and teach kids the importance of setting goals and self-discipline through physical activity.
This is something I do on my own. I don't get compensated for it. When you talk to the community about the fact that you're doing this on your own time, I think it makes a bigger statement for what we're doing.
16, 17, 18, 19.
It's a beautiful relationship that they're establishing, and it saves a lot of these kids. They don't have a father figure in their life right now. They don't have a mother figure in their life right now. So right now, they're very at risk.
Cops and kids building connections. Later on Sunday Stories. Chuck Wall, owner of Vultures R Aviation, has had a lifelong relationship with airplanes and flying. Both his grandfather and father were military pilots, and at age 5, Chuck got the opportunity to fly his first plane. After retiring from a career as an air traffic controller, Chuck and his wife Carol turned his hobby of restoring vintage aircraft into a profitable business.
Have you got that bolt to come loose yet? Right now we're working on the rarest of the rare aircraft.
Vultures R Aviation is the result of a lifetime of fascination with flying for Chuck Wall.
We go to complete ground-up restoration. These are 70-year-old airplanes, and a couple of them have been underwater for 40, 50 years. And so they're in really rough shape. They're not flyable airplanes when they come here. And when they leave, they will be 100% authentic, restored, flyable aircraft.
The work of bringing vintage aircraft back to the skies, later on Sunday Stories. Got a problem in your fields with some pesky pests? Who are you going to call? The North American barn owl. Natural predators like the North American barn owl are being used by some as part of integrated pest management practices to reduce the rodent populations that can damage crops.
Some might call it an old-world solution to a problem that impacts farms, orchards, and vineyards all across the heartland, using natural predators like the North American barn owl to facilitate integrated pest management.
The barn owl can be utilized in almost any crop. They're being utilized in almond orchards, cherry orchards, pistachio, avocado, and that's California crops, including, of course, all the grapes.
A look at how some feathered friends are helping farmers. Ahead on Sunday Stories. The Sacramento Choral Society and Orchestra is the only community chorus in the nation to have its own professional symphony orchestra. Boasting over 140 singers and more than 55 orchestra players, it's been bringing music and community to life since 1996.
I often wonder for a given concert if the actual attendees can envision the number of hours of rehearsal that have gone in, the care and the commitment, and certainly the passion of the singers. The product is one that is giving back to the community. It's outward. It's not about the individual singers. It's about what we can do collectively to enhance the cultural life of Sacramento.
The sounds of the Sacramento Choral Society and Orchestra, later on Sunday Stories. Enriching the lives of Alzheimer's patients through art. UC Davis Assistant Professor Katia Vega's innovative work in the field of beauty technology. Teaching students empathy and understanding for people with disabilities. Sikh culture and the history of Sikhs in America. Instead of running away from cops, students are running with them in the TenK with a Cop program. This unique program in Modesto is helping build positive relationships and empowering students with confidence to be successful in life.
Usually when law enforcement is in contact with somebody, there's something wrong going on. Let's be real there. It usually is something wrong. This isn't that. We're not here to investigate anything. We're not here to take anybody to jail. We're just here. We're just here to run with you. It's really broken those barriers. You see those smiling faces. You don't see that fear. We really need to let them know law enforcement isn't against them. They're there to help them and to serve as a role model to these kids.
Detective Sean Dodge is with the Modesto Police Department. Today, he's running with students at Shackelford Elementary School in Modesto. He's part of a program called TenK with a Cop.
We're gonna stretch, so we just do one lap and then we need to stretch. That's just a warm-up, guys, okay?
4 days a week, you'll see a group of little kiddos out there.
Very simple, just reach up as high as you can.
And they stay after from 2:30 to 3:30, and they run around the playground with certain law enforcement officials.
Sue McCann is the principal at Shackelford Elementary. She, along with Detective Dodge and other law enforcement officials, teamed up to create TenK with a Cop in 2018.
Shackelford is not the only school that's participating. We have multiple agencies going to multiple schools throughout Stanislaus County.
Because I'll tell you what, if I wasn't, I'd be going all over the place too. So just up on the tippy toes, okay?
It's a beautiful relationship that they're establishing, and it saves a lot of these kids.
Many of these students who participate have endured a lot of hardships at such a young age.
They don't have a father figure in their life right now. They don't have a mother figure in their life right now. So right now, they're very at risk. And a lot of students, they don't have the best impression of law enforcement. All you have to do is turn on the news.
That Chicago police officer charged with murdering a teenager, firing 16 shots.
Officer excessive.
It's been rough, and that's the thing. We have those conversations. For example, I'll be running with a kid, and I'll start talking about a law enforcement officer that came to their house the night before, and they just may assume because I'm a police officer, oh, it was you. You showed up at my house last night, and it wasn't me. But we're able to break those barriers and maybe explain a little bit about why we did what we did, and maybe get some explanation too from them as far as this is what's going on in the home. Basically, we're just letting those conversations take place more organically and more on their terms, not ours.
Something negative has turned into something very beautiful and very positive.
This is something I do on my own. I don't get compensated for it. When you talk to the community about the fact that you're doing this on your own time, I think it makes a bigger statement for what we're doing.
16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
I know instead of being with their families, they come and see us to encourage us, and that's why I would like to thank them.
Being with the cop is amazing. And I might even be a cop when I grow up.
I just want to be a cop when I grow up, or a runner.
Our goal, besides the relationship building, is to have these kids complete a 10K.
Good job, finish it up.
Obviously, nobody's going to go out there and run 6.2 miles, especially a child, at the beginning of all this. So we basically building mile upon mile till we reach that 6.2 miles.
1, 2, 3.
Good job, guys. We'll see you guys.
Ready, go.
1, 2, 3.
4, loudly, Jaime!
After several months of preparation, the youngsters are ready to do their very first 2K run. Students,
Ready to go.
parents, faculty, and law enforcement from across the county have gathered on this early morning to participate.
There's nothing more rewarding when you see communities come together.
All the kids, let's get together close. We're gonna start running.
It's just amazing to see them actually have a goal And they're accomplishing it every month in these runs. And what a great life skill, right? The power of yet. You're not there yet, but you keep working hard and you'll get there.
Ready, set, go!
I love to see hard work come to fruition, and I'm seeing that. Good. Good job. They cross over those finish lines and those parents are there. Just to see them accomplish a goal that they probably never thought was possible.
Running is a lot like life. You're going to have those uphills and those downhills. Sometimes those uphills are rough, you know, and in life sometimes those uphills are rough as well. And teaching these kids to push past that and set goals to move past these challenges in life.
Do good, don't quit. Don't quit. Push it, push it. Push it, push it. Nice job. Good job, man.
This is important. It's our future.
Nice job. Come on, come on. You got it. Boom.
Since TenK with a Cop was founded, kids have run more than 22,000 miles alongside law enforcement officers. School programs in California's Central Valley and Los Angeles reach 650 students a year, emphasizing the importance of physical activity, while also building crucial relationships that organizers hope will last long beyond the finish line.
Later, a love of flying and vintage aircraft turns a pastime into a business, restoring World War II planes. But first, Artisan Mind is a nonprofit organization that connects art, creativity, and cultural institutions to people living with Alzheimer's and their care partners to create new memories and strengthen relationships.
Something happens when somebody connects to a piece of art that reminds them of something. And when they remember who they are, and we can meet them there, the anxiety or the apathy or the agitation that is often a symptom that comes along with Alzheimer's or dementia, those things go away when they are engaged in the creative experience. My grandfather had Alzheimer's, my Grandpa Mac. He ran a steel factory in Pennsylvania. His granddaughter going to art school made no sense to him, and he believed in me anyway. He would say, "Honey, are you sure you can do something with an art degree?" And I just started investigating how the arts could be used for people living with disabilities, and the Alzheimer's piece just had my heart. Artists for Alzheimer's is part of a national organization that does museum tours that are specifically designed for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. The tours here in Sacramento, we arrive early. We've trained the docents at each one of the museums. Typically they come on a bus from one of the assisted living facilities. So the second they got off the bus, we're saying hello and introducing ourselves and welcoming them to the museum. And then we guide them inside, and there's these ways to ask a few simple questions and connect with them and create that sense of relationship, to develop new memories and to not let that person's beautiful mind atrophy by not being used. These partnerships started developing with other assisted living communities and other memory care organizations that kind of grew outside the scope of what arts was doing. So that's when Artisan Mind was born. One of the goals that I have for Artisan Mind is to create a society where the diagnosis doesn't define a person, but instead it just serves as a path to unconditional acceptance and opportunity and hope. The arts is an avenue to do that. And one of the reasons that the art works so well is that the part of the brain where imagination and creativity comes from is the last part affected by Alzheimer's or dementia. So by tapping into that part of the brain, it actually serves as a gateway to memories And that's what I see happening.
Would you help me get that out later? I'll be taking it with me.
Perfect. We do definitely see the lights come on. And when I've seen that connection of, this is an important memory. It's so possible to connect and give this sense of meaning to somebody. And it's so much more engaging than putting somebody in front of the news program or getting lost to, you know, a television show and not being engaged. And for people who don't know how to connect with grandma anymore, they might be afraid of it. And there are studies all over the place about how happiness is good for our health. So if we can do that and help people in that way, and for somebody living with Alzheimer's and dementia, there's not that many opportunities for validation. I think if we just learn how to listen and learn how to use the art as that form of communication, I think the world will be a better place and people will be less afraid of dementia. I really love what I do. It just gives me a sense of meaning and purpose. And here I am trying to give these people a sense of meaning and purpose. I know how important that is to the human experience. And I just feel so called to do the work and so called to be of service and to help and give that sense of hope. And when it happens, it's just that confirmation saying, you're doing the right thing.
A vintage World War II T-6 buzzes the Cameron Park runway. Not an unusual sight for the crew at Vultures R Aviation. Today they have a special visitor who reminds them of why they do what they do. More on him in a moment. This team is in the plane restoration business. Their large hangar on the edge of the runway is a workshop filled with the tools to bring life to aircraft left for dead decades ago.
Have you got that bolt to come loose yet? Right now we're working on the rarest of the rare aircraft.
Vultures R Aviation is the result of a lifetime of fascination with flying for Chuck Wall.
There's only a handful of flying examples in the world, and we bring them into the shop, take them apart, and put them back together new. And when I say that, we go to complete ground-up restoration. These are 70-year-old airplanes, and a couple of them have been underwater for 40, 50 years. And so they're in really rough shape. They're not flyable airplanes when they come here. And when they leave, they will be 100% authentic, restored, flyable aircraft.
Chuck had already restored 2 airplanes as a hobby when he and his wife Carol started the business in 2010.
I retired in 2008 from the FAA. I was an air traffic controller for 25 plus years and sat behind a radar screen and did that for my first, I call it my first life, and this is my afterlife.
Is that going to be in the way?
No, you won't be going up that high. Here, stop.
Oh,
it goes up right to
here.
where your hand is and stops
okay.
there.
We were at a point in our lives, both personally and financially, that it made a lot of sense. With his skills and mine and where we were with growing our own family with our kids, it really seemed like a natural choice, although it was a big leap of faith to start the business and get rolling. Once we got it underway, it made a lot of sense.
Because their work is so specialized, word has traveled quickly to vintage aircraft collectors in need of restoration. Today, the team of 13 mechanics is working on a Navy SBD-4 Dauntless used during World War II.
It went to the Great Lakes region in late '43 for training, and it was flown on and off of the USS Sable. And it had an engine failure at one point when a student was doing carrier qualifications. On takeoff, the engine just failed right at the end of the ship, and then it sat at 315 feet in Lake Michigan for 50 years. So that is truly a 100% ground-up restoration. And the timeline on something like that, it will run 4 to 5 years. Right now we're trying to finish up the fuselage part of it so that the riveting can get done, and the airplane here in the next couple months will be on 3 wheels. The wings are going back together, and we're about a year away from flying.
Of course, this kind of full restoration isn't cheap.
You can spend upwards of $2 to $3 and even $4 million on some airplanes and more.
But it's a price their clients are willing to pay.
It's because of the rarity of the airplane. What they're doing is they're preserving history for future generations. They take great pride in their collection of aircraft, and rightfully so, because they're spending a lot of their own time and money preserving history from the greatest generation. And so we try to step up to the plate and meet the same challenge, to where we can provide the authenticity and try to recreate exactly the way the airplane was, so that it is a time capsule to be continued on for many decades and hundreds of years to come.
If the idea of an airplane rescued from the bottom of Lake Michigan taking flight impresses average folks, imagine Francis Ferry's reaction.
Would you like to go see the engines?
Yeah.
Engine shop is down this way.
I didn't think I'd ever see a SB-2C again, and I think we're going to be able to. I'm 94, I'll be 95 pretty soon. So how long is it going to be before you get this plane fixed and ready to fly?
2 years.
2 years? Oh, I'll make it. Yeah, I'll make it.
He was piloting one of these as Naval Lieutenant Francis Ferry in 1945. His mission, sink the Japanese warship Yamato, the most powerful battleship ever constructed to date.
I was the second plane to dive, and was credited with the hit that started the fire on the Yamato, which eventually caused its sinking.
Chuck invited Francis and fellow World War II pilot Roy Coverdale here today to take a look at the restoration. The men got the red carpet treatment. The staff at Vultures R got some wisdom in return.
You need over this way.
I was at a meeting on the East Coast, and
I could have brought some.
There was a Japanese admiral and a Japanese general at the same table that I was at, and I made a statement like, I was sorry that I was the person that attacked your battleship. And the admiral turned to me and he said, "The war is over. We're at peace and we are friends now." And I just got quiet. I couldn't say anything more.
What did that make you think when he said that?
I thought of the people that I destroyed.
Did you carry it with you?
Yep.
For Chuck Wall, this is the true payoff. His father piloted during Vietnam and grandfather in World War II, but Chuck never flew military missions. Flying above air shows in formation is as close to battle as he'll ever get.
I've been around aviation all my life. I don't really know anything different. I didn't really know it was going to be a successful business. I just jumped in with both feet and swam as hard as I could. And I feel that if you put your life soul into something and you're passionate about it and you're good enough to do it, that you'll succeed at it. And so we tried it, and here we are 4.5 years later, and it seems to be working.
Still ahead, a new twist using an old world method for non-chemical pest management. Our next story explores the fascinating possibilities that could be created by using technology to create interactive platforms with our body. Imagine a day when you could send a text by touching your hair or pay for coffee with your fingernails.
So what was happening with traditional cosmetics right now? If you think about lipstick, so I have red lipstick, my mom has red lipstick, my grandma has red lipstick. So the functionality of cosmetics has been the same. We highlight or we hide some part of our body. So with this idea that I call it beauty technology, what I do is I extend the functionality of cosmetics. So they are still done for keeping you pretty, but now with kind of a superpower. So my name is Katia Vega. I am an assistant professor at the design department here at UC Davis. My research is about how we could embed technology into our body surface. So for that, I was creating different interfaces like hair, skin, or fingernail interfaces that could make our skin as an interactive platform. I think that I was always curious about these girls going to the nail salon, spending 1 or 2 hours doing their nails. And so I was wondering, like, if we are already investing all this time, why we don't embed technology? The first idea of all this concept of beauty technology was the conductive makeup. So I was thinking about how we blink. And for that, I was using fake eyelashes as a way we could put an eyelashes on the top and eyelashes on the bottom part. And each time you blink, with a circuit that is connected to a hairband, we could detect blinking. The fingernails project, I call it Beauty Tech Nails. And we were using RFIDs. RFIDs is the same technology you use for paying the metro or paying Starbucks or opening the door of your office. All these cards that we have in the wallet, most of them, they have these RFIDs. But I was thinking, like, what if we could have technology on your fingertip? I am from Peru. I'm from Lima. I study computer science, and then I moved to Brazil. I stayed there for 7 years. I did my master's and my PhD there. Also in between, I went to Hong Kong to the arts department, and then I went to MIT Media Lab to also continue creating these technologies. Most of the projects that I do is not exactly for a specific problem. It's more of creating a solution that could be enabling different projects. The hair project, we call it hair wear. So this hair is actually a fake hair that we use a chemical process for metallize that. So now it still looks like hair, but it's conductive. So for example, you could touch your hair and you could send a message, you touch your hair and you could record a conversation, you could touch your hair and you could take a selfie, or even if you think about more in a safety or security aspect of that, we could think about touching the hair and sending your location if you are in danger. The Dermavis is a collaboration project between MIT Media Lab and Harvard Medical School. So we use a pig skin, and with that we were injecting using a traditional tattoo gun and injecting that biosensors and making that react. So we were working with different biosensors like pH or sodium or glucose. So imagine that you have diabetes. Your glucose levels go up and down. So you could see in your tattoo that your glucose levels are changing and when you will need more insulin. So it's a way that we could explore how we could read information that is inside of your body and you usually don't have access to. I think I have the motivation of doing research instead of creating products. So for me, it's like this privilege I have to wake up and thinking about what I wanted to do next and what I wanted to create next. And that's how I see as my role as a researcher and what I will be creating next.
Some might call it an old world solution to a problem that impacts farms, orchards, and vineyards all across the heartland, using natural predators like the North American barn owl to facilitate integrated pest management.
A true integrated pest management program, IPM, uses as many methods as possible to control a pest. And so for years we've been using baits and poisons to kill pocket gophers. And I decided that it was time to get off the pesticide treadmill and try and use something different.
This study is being conducted in Northern California vineyards, where rodents, such as gophers and voles, are making tasty treats out of vine roots.
In this particular property, we have limited topsoil. We're growing smaller vines, a higher end crop, so we need as much root as we can in the ground. So if a gopher comes by and starts feeding on these roots, that's, it's limiting what that vine can pull up. It's cutting the juices that are going up into that vine, helping it grow.
Hey kids, what's going on in there?
Animal handler and researcher Mark Browning is part of the barn owl program, seeing how many nocturnal raptors are necessary to eradicate the pests in a particular field.
The barn owl can be utilized in almost any crop. They're being utilized in almond orchards, cherry orchards, pistachio, avocado, and that's California crops, including, of course, all the grapes. But something else is that barn owls are being used in sugarcane down in Florida, because the barn owl will center on the rodent that is most populous in its area. So if it happens to be pocket gophers here in California or voles up north of here, it might also be cotton rats down in the sugarcane of Florida, or rice rats in the rice plantations of Louisiana.
To increase the owl population, Browning is installing nesting boxes he says are designed to attract the predator bird.
It has a hole that is just the right size for a barn owl to get interested in. They like to go into a hole that is just small enough for them to squeeze into, but not large enough for something larger and more ferocious to come in and get them.
Browning is being assisted by several wildlife students from the University of California at Davis, including Kimberly Sugano. One of Sugano's daily duties is to keep track of the dirt mounds that may reappear following a night of owl activity.
What we do is we see mounds and we tamp them down and then come back 2 days later in order to see whether or not there has been any change. And we set up nest boxes in order to see whether or not we could get more barn owls into the study site.
Remember to hold so that you don't get messed on, okay?
Another job is to assist in the monthly census count of owl chicks to ensure the population is healthy and increasing.
These guys are just starting to get their facial discs in. Barn owls have these concave facial discs created by feathers, and that's one of the reasons that barn owls have some of the best hearing in the bird world, which is already extremely good amongst owls. Barn owls have some of the best hearing among the owl families. And these guys, well, they're starting to get some flight feathers in, like Jillian's got one right here. These guys are coming in. These are flight feathers. And I would say they're about 2 or 3 weeks away from being able just to fly right out and become adult barn owls themselves.
Vintners say the use of barn owls in the region for pest control is nothing new.
We've had barn owl boxes up for probably 10 to 15 years now, but with this many and isolated in specific spots like this, we've never had this many we've typically had one probably for 40 acres or 30 acres. Now we're looking at 25 in a 100-acre block.
Browning's research is validating the need to increase the population of the raptor.
So if you've got a researcher in place that can take the time to measure that impact and determine how many boxes do we need in a given acreage, where do we need to locate them for the best effect, how often do we need to clean them, all those types of things, that's wonderful.
If we can come across where, we need to put 5 per 20 acres, we'll put 5 per 20 acres. Yes, there's an expense to that, but you collect that money back by not having to send a tractor through the field, leaving little bait behind in burrows for these gophers to take back to their own burrow and die.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is also keeping an eye on the research, since the agency advocates the use of natural pesticide methods.
The more we can encourage people to restore as much as possible a natural environment where Mother Nature keeps things in check, rather than using chemicals to keep pests in check, I mean, that's simply good for all of us. And basically, that's what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is concerned with, is encouraging a more natural world where a lot of species can survive and thrive.
So you actually have a predator that's extremely well suited for an IPM program, and I think that in the end, the result will be a greater interest in utilizing barn owls for rodent control, and various farmers around the country starting to realize that you can use this animal to reduce the use of poisons and other invasive methods.
As night begins to fall, the nocturnal owls begin to take flight in search of their prey.
Barn owls happen to be extremely well adapted to this job. They are attracted to nest boxes. That means you can attract them to a farm. They don't mind each other's company. So that also means that you can have a lot of them and they're not going to fight. They tolerate human presence and they eat a large number of rodents and have lots of babies. So you actually have a predator that's extremely well suited for an IPM program. And I think that in the end, the result will be a greater interest in utilizing barn owls for rodent control, and various farmers around the country starting to realize that you can use this animal to reduce the use of poisons and other invasive methods.
As for the growers, they feel the use of barn owls will allow them to provide a more environmentally friendly and cost-efficient product for the consumer.
They can see that the product they're purchasing is safer for the environment, is better for the grower because the grower is making a little bit more money, and potentially the price of the product that they're buying is lower.
When you see an owl flying around at dusk, starting to hunt for the night, it's one of the neatest sights, I think, that I've ever had the opportunity to experience. Working in these properties, I get to see a lot of wildlife interact with our farming operation, and knowing that the owl's out there taking care of one less thing that I have to worry about is a great thing.
Later, one of the most concentrated communities of Sikhs in America resides in Yuba City. We take a look at Sikh tradition and culture. But first, the nonprofit organization A Touch of Understanding takes disability awareness workshops into schools to teach students to understand the challenges associated with disabilities and to encourage acceptance and respect for all individuals.
2 days till countdown with this access to care fair. So
there are people on this earth who make their moments truly matter, and this is a prime example of that. Leslie Didora, A Touch of Understanding is her organization, and Direct from Her Heart is that name. Good to see you, Leslie.
It's wonderful to be here, Rob. What an honor. Thank you very much.
What we're talking about is people who have disabilities of any kind. And A Touch of Understanding goes into classrooms all across Northern California and teaches children at early ages that everybody is the same. Really is that basic that has to be taught.
We think that each of us is different, that we feel different in and of ourselves, that no one ever felt the feelings that we feel. And then when we talk with kids about what's hard for them or what's hard in their family, and they open up because it's such a safe environment.
And look how they're learning it. From the very people that before these workshops they may have looked at differently.
Exactly.
Your workshops have speakers who are blind, use wheelchairs,
have autism.
What else?
Have cerebral palsy. Sometimes we're fortunate enough to have a speaker who is deaf. One of our speakers has Parkinson's. So we have a variety of disabilities represented. What the students are seeing is that despite these challenges, These individuals are finding ways to accomplish their dreams and achieve their goals. And in doing so, what they're realizing is they can do the same thing.
Your organization and what you've done with the Touch of Understanding has gone all across this country. And I would bet all across this world. Because how many students have you engaged with?
Over 115,000.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And each of those kids have been through the workshop like you're seeing here right now. And these kids sat here in this gymnasium and heard from speakers and got into wheelchairs themselves and went around the room. And after that happened, they also heard what it sounds like for some people who have autism.
Mm-hmm.
They had examples of Braille. They had examples of artificial limbs.
We may look different on the outside, but on the inside we're all the same people.
And afterwards, I saw that class, Leslie, tighter than I've ever seen other ways of bringing kids together. And I see this time and time again with your workshops, because like you said, they realize that their problems in their world, once talked about, are all out for everyone to feel the same.
Exactly. It creates a climate of connection. And as we know, even as we're learning more and more about mental health issues, connection is life-saving. But it doesn't work if the other kids don't understand the challenges, because then the child with disabilities is put in, and it's like putting a child into a play and not giving anybody the script. Then everybody is just trying to figure out what's right to do without any guidance. But with a touch of understanding, it's like giving them the guidance that they need to then interact positively.
What did Albert Einstein have?
So Albert Einstein had a lot of struggles. He didn't talk till he was 5 years old.
Kids are so brilliant. They take this exploration that we provide and they put it in where it fits into their daily living.
Wow. You are in schools during the school year, just about every day of the school year.
3 and 4 days a week, yes, in 10 counties
That's
in
a
Greater
lot of
Sacramento.
work.
It is. It is. We hope to be able to continue to expand, and we get a lot of interest from across the country. And there is some interest in Canada as well. It's finding the funding to make it happen and ways to keep the integrity of the program.
When you meet people who've not heard of a Touch of Understanding, how do you describe it?
I describe it as the emotional ADA. It's one thing. Brilliant. It's one thing to be able to get into, physically be able to get into a building. But if when you get in that building in your wheelchair, you feel alone and isolated, you'd rather not be there. What I don't want to see continue happen is any child hurt, any child isolated, any child going home and crying because of the way they've been treated or ignored at school. I want to see our communities include our individuals with disabilities, our individuals who seem different for any reason, because of those individuals deserving it, but also because our communities are so much richer when everyone brings their gifts and talents. But when we isolate people and we don't accept those gifts and talents because they might look a little different, we all lose. And isn't that a sad thing?
You are one person who helps set others free. And I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Meet the Sikhs. There are nearly 100,000 in northern and central California. They are most numerous in the Marysville-Yuba City region, 1 of every 10 residents. So a number of cultural and religious events are held there, including a big annual parade that draws Sikhs from many places in our state and beyond. The Sikhs came from the Punjab, a land of 5 rivers in the northwestern area of the Indian subcontinent. It's the site of one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Distinctive in appearance, they are followers of a religion dating back more than 500 years. The word Sikh is believed to be derived from the Punjabi word for disciple. Founded by the Guru Nanak, Sikhism is a religion in itself, but has some aspects in common with other religions. Sikhs believe in a supreme being, respect other religions, pledge equality for women, and most followers don't use alcohol or tobacco. The Sikh creed of Khalsa calls for hair and beard to be unshorn with a comb in it, knee-length breeches, a steel bracelet on the right wrist, and carrying a saber called a kirpan. Men's hair is usually kept under a turban with a V in front. Sikhs have been in America for well over a century. They are not the first Asian Americans, but arrived about the same time as the first Japanese in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and faced similar discrimination, including an Asian Exclusion Act. The first Sikh temple was built in Stockton. Thousands of Sikh men worked on the Western Pacific Railroad and in the timber industry and agriculture. Sikhs have fought in every American war in the last century. Because few Punjabi women were initially able to join them, a number of Sikhs married Mexicans, most of whom were also recent immigrants. Another wave of Sikhs came after the partition of India in the 1940s. Changes in immigration law in the past decades have brought the most recent group, including business and medical professionals.
Mil mere Pritama, mil mere Pritama.
While concentrated in Northern California, you'll find Sikhs in all walks of American life. But their story as American immigrants is left out of most textbooks. Because of their attire, they remain distinctive, while determined to share in the American dream.
Music and community. Conductor Donald Kendrick leads the Sacramento Choral Society and Orchestra as they provide world-class music for the people in our region and beyond.
Verse 2, sing.
It's Donald Kendrick's passion and love for music that inspired him to help create the Sacramento Choral Society and Orchestra.
We're perceived as the large choral symphonic chorus in town.
But the SCSO's fame extends far beyond Sacramento's city limits. It is recognized around the world. It all began in 1996 with a dream to make Sacramento a leader in choral circles, and it worked.
We are so proud that there's only one large community chorus that has its own professional symphony orchestra, and that happens to be the Sacramento Choral Society. And we are the only organization that has a collective bargaining agreement with the American Federation of Musicians.
The masterminds behind the music are conductor Donald Kendrick and President James McCormick.
The best part of being in a choir, besides the music, is definitely the feeling of a community, camaraderie, breathing together, having a common goal.
And that common goal starts behind the scenes with a little fun.
It takes an alto to do that.
Before the fanfare.
That's alto power.
But making music is serious business for Donald.
Some things that I'm concerned about a little bit in Carmina. Number one, we do a lot of different kind of music with the Choral Society. Verdi, Brahms, Beethoven, Bruckner. And in a sense, that's how we exist. We bring to the community the large choral orchestral works that are considered masterpieces throughout music history. We decided to do a concert series in the Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament. We brought to that building music that would have been sung in buildings similar to that around Europe. So I called it a tribute to the European cathedrals. And we began with music of Mozart, and we did the Mozart Coronation Mass, which involved 4 soloists and the chorus and on the organ, much like you would have heard it in Salzburg when Mozart was there. In the last several years, we've also balanced that out with doing more popular pieces. We've done some what we call pop shows, music of Lerner and Loewe, music of Andrew Lloyd Webber.
And 3, 4.
Learning the music can take months of patience and practice.
Look!
We love singing Carmina Burana. All choirs love singing Carmina Burana. It's just great fun to sing it. It's just pure fun. But not easy to sing that piece well. It's very demanding.
Demanding and dramatic, because most of the lyrics aren't in English, which means every singer must learn several new languages.
And your score is written incorrectly. You have S-U-C-C, and it should be S-U-S-C. So the word should be suscrescente. Go. Suscrescente. Suscrescente. Veni, ven. Your first chord, hold it, go. Is so much better than it was last week. Last time, A minor is cha, cha. There's the chord. Finish the phrase, open score.
When you can have an 88-year-old that has good breath management and can sing well and in tune and a good ear, and you have a 20-year-old who's learning and watching all these community people who are there every Monday night, accepting each other, singing in different languages. They see people of Asian extraction in our choir singing Latin. You know, it's not that easy. That gathering room is like a choral village.
Betty Harder is back. Would you wave at us, Betty? Okay. Welcome, Betty.
The rehearsal time, while I love the performances, it's that journey, it's that rehearsal time, that's where you see the growth of the members. You add 55 professional players, 180 voice chorus, that's a team of 235 if you don't count the 4 soloists.
We are providing quality music for families and children at affordable prices, and we're also changing people's lives. When I was younger, I felt like my parents probably would have liked me to have done something else with my life, maybe be a doctor. And one day I woke up and I realized I am a doctor. I'm helping to heal people through music. And I think that is what all of us are trying to do, is trying to make the world a better place through song.
The singers are the driving force behind the success of the SCSO. I often wonder, for a given concert, if the actual attendees can envision the number of hours of rehearsal that have gone in, the care and the commitment, and certainly the passion of the singers. The product is one that is giving back to the community. It's outward. It's not about the individual singers. It's about what we can do collectively to enhance the cultural life of Sacramento.
I'm Michael Sanford. It's been a pleasure being part of your Sunday. We hope you've enjoyed today's stories and that you'll be back next time for another episode of Sunday Stories. Until then, have a great week.